Fears of escalation in the Middle East mount following the death of a senior Hamas figure in a blast in Beirut. Israel has not claimed responsibility. Kyiv accuses Moscow of deliberately targeting civilians in some of the heaviest Russian aerial attacks since the war began. Central Japan is hit by new aftershocks as rescuers continue to search for survivors following Monday's earthquake.
The European Parliament will add more votes to its schedule in the next few months as it attempts to push through legislation before elections.
An apparent Israeli strike in the Lebanese capital, which killed a senior Hamas figure, has raised fears the conflict could expand. The militant group has confirmed its deputy head, Salah al-Awri, and 2 commanders from its armed wing were killed in a blast in Beirut. Israel has not claimed responsibility. Al-Awri was a political leader of Hamas and also the founder of the group's military wing. The strike hit an apartment in a Hezbollah stronghold of Beirut. Its leader has vowed to strike back at any Israeli targeting of Palestinian officials in Lebanon. Protesters soon took to the streets of the West Bank city of Ramallah after al-Awri's death was announced. Much of the crowd chanted demands for revenge for the killing. Israel is reportedly pulling back some of its troops from Gaza, redeploying them on its border with Lebanon. The UN has called for restraint.
Because of the escalating tensions and the fragility of the situation in the region, we are calling for maximum restraint from all parties.
Meanwhile, fierce fighting continues in Gaza. An Israeli strike near the Nusayrat refugee camp leveled a building on Tuesday, killing at least 8 people. Several children were pulled from the rubble. Ukraine has accused Russia of deliberately targeting civilians in one of the heaviest aerial bombardments since Russia's war began. Ukraine's 2 largest cities were struck, Kyiv and the northeastern city of Kharkiv, killing at least 5 people on Tuesday and injuring dozens of others. Kyiv officials said the attacks caused widespread damage and hit power supplies. In his evening address, President Zelensky praised Western-provided defense systems for saving hundreds of lives. US Patriot systems are in continual use, and Ukraine claims to have forced down 10 Russian Kinzhal hypersonic missiles. A crater reportedly left by one such missile after it was shot down left little damage, but in populated areas they can be devastating. Kinzhal hypersonic missiles are part of an arsenal of weapons Vladimir Putin claims are indestructible due to their speed. Russia's Ministry of Defense issued footage of the recent missile launches. President Putin said he believes Russia holds the strategic initiative in the war. A growing confidence by the Russian leader seems to stem from Kyiv's failed summer offensive and delays in the US and EU military aid to Ukraine. Central Japan has been hit by new aftershocks as rescuers continue to search for survivors following Monday's earthquake. In Ishikawa Prefecture, emergency teams' painstaking work was dramatically interrupted when the area was struck by a fresh tremor. Expected heavy rains and possible landslides may further hinder their efforts. Across the region, entire neighborhoods were destroyed. Some of the survivors gathered in emergency accommodation have no homes to return to.
とってもじゃないかぺちゃんこになってますから入れません。ですからここで今夫婦で生活雑魚寝状態で、なんとか皆さんで声かけ合って励まし合うということでございます。今そんな状況です。
Around 70 people are known to have died, but the toll seems certain to rise, with dozens believed trapped in the rubble of collapsed buildings. Experts say chances of survival diminish greatly after the first 72 hours in such conditions. It's been described as a miracle. Nearly 400 people, passengers and crew escaped to safety as their plane was engulfed in flames following a collision with a smaller plane on a Tokyo runway. Images of the Japan Airlines flight coming into land resembling a fireball could only leave observers fearing the worst. Tragically, 5 of the 6 people on board the smaller plane died in the incident. For an idea of what the passengers were going through, a 17-year-old Swedish boy captured the moments on his mobile phone. He later described the chaos after impact as the Airbus A350 lumbered to a halt on the runway. The entire cabin filled with smoke within minutes. It was like hell, he said. Investigators are piecing together what happened at 17:47 local time at Tokyo's Haneda Airport and why 2 planes could have been on the runway at the same time.
As an accident investigator, my focus is on what happened much longer ago, on how the 2 aircraft came to collide, and the moments up until all those who could be saved were saved. If reports are correct that everybody evacuated this aircraft successfully, then that is fabulous news.
It's the first major accident involving an A350, one of a new breed of aircraft built largely of advanced materials such as carbon fibre reinforced plastic. Airbus is sending a team of specialists to assist in the investigations.
The European Parliament will add more votes to its schedule in the next few months as it attempts to push through legislation before elections. There will be more voting sessions added to each of its monthly meetings. Europeans go to the polls in June, meaning lawmakers' last chance to vote on more than 100 pieces of proposed legislation will be in late April.
So, to be clear, what we would be voting...
Es verdad que va a haber sesiones plenarias aquí en Estrasburgo con muchos temas que votar. Normalmente lo que se puede hacer es añadir sesión de voto, por ejemplo, por la tarde, para no votar más de 2 o de 3 horas seguidas, de manera que los diputados guarden la concentración. No se puede estar votando durante horas y horas.
The Parliament will have to vote on key laws such as the Migration Pact, artificial intelligence and the new fiscal rules of the bloc. In Brussels, many think the accelerated process is down to a predicted surge of right-wing MEPs in the next elections. Those MEPs could block many of the proposed laws, meaning current lawmakers want to get them through now. But many see the latest EU proposals on migration and the Green Deal as dangerous attempts to please the far right.
There's still many other files on the Green Deal side. There's this infamous Asylum and Migration Pact too, on which there's an agreement that won't solve anything, and that basically follows the footsteps of the radical right, which I think is also a big mistake. I would say, if I look at what my group is going to do between now and the end of the term, will be to play defense. Because, well, what I believe is that the vast majority is sleepwalking the European Union into disaster, and we must prevent that.
According to the latest opinion polls, far-right and radical forces in the European Parliament could make gains in the June elections, with the mainstream parties and Greens losing their seats.
Doctors in England are due to walk out for 6 days starting on Wednesday morning. The industrial action is the longest in the history of the UK's public health service, the NHS. The strike marks a major escalation in a bitter row with the government over pay. The doctors want full pay restoration after seeing their pay decline since 2008-2009. The problem, they say, is compounded by high inflation and the cost of living crisis. For the first time, China's BYD has overtaken Tesla in global electric car sales. The Chinese manufacturer sold more than 500,000 EVs in the last quarter of 2023, compared to Tesla's 480,000 for the same period. Elon Musk's company still performed better than expected, increasing its fourth quarter sales by almost 20%. And over the course of the year, it remains the market leader in electric car and truck sales, delivering more than 1.8 million units to customers worldwide.
Paris hotel prices have already tripled for the Olympic Games. With less than 7 months to go, a study carried out by Consumers Protection Association has already raised the alarm over prices charged by certain hotels during the Games. Rooms, sometimes more than 200% higher, could rise up to nearly 500%. The prices mean disappointment for many.
Se réjouissait d'être venu maintenant à Paris parce qu'on ne viendra pas durant les Jeux Olympiques.
À cause de ça?
À cause de ça, voilà.
For the Olympics then, because of high prices, so we are not coming to visit them.
The average room rate was multiplied by 3 for the opening night ceremony alone.
Période classique hors JO, on est sur un tarif à 330 € en moyenne pour la chambre classique. On monte à 530 € au début des JO, donc autour du 26 juillet. Il faut quand même que je m'aligne un petit peu avec les confrères concurrents des alentours. Ça reste quand même une aventure un peu exceptionnelle et donc on essaye de profiter un petit peu nous aussi.
French authorities will carry out checks at 10,000 hotels and restaurants across France ahead of the Paris Olympics next year in order to limit expected massive price hikes during the Games. A total of 16 million tourists are expected to visit the French capital during the Games.